Thank you, Mr. Lenthal. And I always like to begin by saying I do commend the goals of your bill. I guess my one question is that if a person is accused of a crime and a warrant is issued for their arrest, is there an opportunity for them to be arrested without being done so in front of their children?
Yes.
They could hand themselves in?
Absolutely.
So if the concern to the parent, to the person accused of a crime, was that they're not arrested in front of their child, could they then simply just call a friend, call a lawyer, call whoever, and put the kid somewhere else and go down to the police precinct?
Yes, well, I think you put your finger on the necessity for this bill, because sometimes you and I, are you a lawyer, sir?
No, I'm not.
Okay. But sometimes a police officer may not be aware that he has the option of getting an arrest warrant and taking care to protect children that may be in the household and have the person come down to the station house rather than go to the house and make the arrest. And this training might let him or her know of the availability of that type of procedure in order to protect children that may be in the household.
Thank you, Mr. Lenthal. On the bill?
On the bill, Mr. Borelli.
Again, I certainly commend the goals of the legislation, and I think it correctly tries to bridge the gap between children who might be afraid of police officers and the police officers themselves. I probably represent the most police officers in any assembly district, so I want to speak to some degree about the safety of my constituents. In about 2 months, I'll be the godfather to a little man named Michael Melendez, and I'm very proud of it. I was the best man at his father's wedding. For about 4 or 5 years, he was a member of the NYPD's warrant squad, and every morning, or just about every morning, he would break down the door of someone who has a warrant against them who refused to comply. He'd basically spend the day before trying to call the person, get them to turn themselves in, and eventually, more often than not, they did, surprisingly. But if not, he would have to break down the door and do it by force. I'd be lying to you if I said that I wasn't worried about my friend every single morning. The truth is, most arrests are conflict situations. They're not situations where people potentially go quietly or easily. And I tend to think that the police officers I represent in my district have a degree of decency and sensitivity pointed out by Mr. Graff earlier. Arrests are inherently conflicts, and I place, the highest priority on the safety of our officers and would not seek to jeopardize that by placing a parenting obligation on the officers themselves. So I'm voting no on this, and I urge my friends and colleagues to do so.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect on the 180th day.
The clerk will record the vote.